It's time for a Q&A. Last week, I asked you all for questions on my Facebook page. You asked some things about photo and video editing, gear repairs, and other stuff too. So let's get to it. Tom says, my daughter gave me a Phantom 4 Pro for Christmas, and so far I have only found one program that would play the video. There are programs out there to edit, but I have found that some will not install, Corel, and others very expensive, Adobe. Am I going to need a new computer? Okay. First of all, Tom, do you love it? Do you love your drone? Because I'm definitely enjoying my Mavic. Anyway, it sounds like you are able to play your videos, but for those who may not be able to play them, the legendary VLC, which you can find at videoland.org, will usually play just about anything. That even includes DVDs if you have a Windows 10 PC that didn't come with the DVD player software. But for editing, I'm sure my viewers will have suggestions, but I will say this. Between Raymond and I, we've tried out so many video editing solutions that are either free, open source, or inexpensive. Unfortunately, it's not an impressive bunch. I use a Mac and I invested in Final Cut Pro, and it's my favorite. It isn't perfect, but it's my favorite. I used iMovie for a while, which comes standard on the Mac, and that is pretty handy. On the PC side, Sony has a couple of options like Vegas Pro and Movie Studio HD. Adobe has Premiere Elements and Premiere Pro above that. You can check to see which of those fit into what you are willing to spend, but the more expensive tools do tend to have a much smoother and more stable workflow. But like I said before, my viewers are pretty vocal, and if there are exceptions to what I've found, you guys, I want you to let me know in the comments. Trevor asks, I'm just taking my first steps in video production and starting to be asked to film things for organizations, etc. Have just been asked to provide copy of edited data, cool, but also access to raw footage. Is this what is normal? And in regard to raw footage, is it everything or just what I want to give them? Sometimes I do a lot of takes. I'm just not sure if this is how it's done or if they're trying to screw me around. Who owns what when I'm filming at a public event? I only ask because you seem to produce video content as well as being a photographer. Well, some of the paid videographers in the audience might speak up in the comments, but here are my thoughts. In terms of what you provide, turn it around and let them know upfront what you do and don't provide. And if they don't like your terms, if it's important to you, you've got to hold firm, which means that you might be passing up on the job. It's not really a bad thing though. It helps you establish for yourself and for others what you provide and how you provide it. For me, turning work down has always been a part of my businesses. I do go a step further though. If I turn down a job for a certain reason or principle, I will go the extra mile and help find that client someone who will do what they're looking for. As for who owns it, the content belongs to you unless you have a contract with the client that states otherwise. That being said, I am not SnapChick, attorney at law, so if you are entering into a binding agreement that you might be concerned about, definitely consult an attorney. Art says, hi SnapChick, I'm trying to learn long exposure photography with neutral density filter of any kind. Suggestions? With neutral density filter, any kind of suggestions, hints, tricks would be helpful. Thank you. Okay, let's start with what a neutral density filter is, just in case anybody doesn't know. It is a lens filter. The idea is that neutral density filters allow less light into the camera so that you can use a longer exposure and or a larger aperture. You can get solid filters or graduated neutral density filters where only a portion of the glass is shaded. There are also different strengths of filters. But now for tips. Each situation is going to be different, and your goals for each of those are certainly different from the next guy's. So there isn't one filter or a group of camera settings that I can suggest. Use the filter, see what happens, and adjust from there to achieve the result that you desire. I do have one piece of advice when adjusting though. Adjust only one thing at a time. For example, if you find that your image is still too bright, adjust only shutter speed take another photo, see what happened, and if you got closer to your goal, then adjust shutter speed again accordingly. Keep doing that until you achieve a photo that you're satisfied with. If you adjust more than one thing at a time, you will often not know what it was that got you to your result, and then you'll be playing around with settings every time rather than actually learning what works for you so that you can get to that result more quickly the next time. In fact, this is how I approach any new technique. I read a little bit just to get a starting point, like you're doing now, watching a video, and then after a small bit of research, I'm out in the field experimenting. Here's why. When you read how something is done, in many cases, you're learning the techniques of one individual person. It's often easy and convenient to do what they do, but this also puts you on train tracks. Not real actual train tracks, but rather you might be missing out on those happy little accidents where you learn something entirely different, or you accidentally stumble upon something truly unique, or you just find a method that works for you. I mean, I suppose there's an art to doing something the way that someone else does it, learning their exact settings and duplicating their efforts, maybe with your own spin. For me, the reward is learning a little bit and then experimenting and experimenting and experimenting. I might make a mess a few times, but I'll learn from that mess, and then I'll find my own unique style and techniques, and that I'll be able to put that in my bag of tricks. At the very least, if I mess it up, I know how not to approach it next time. And last, one thing that I say quite often on my channel is that I will show you what I do, but I will never tell you to do it my way, because there's rarely a time when you don't have options on how to do something. So definitely keep that in mind. Joel's question is, have you ever had to send a lens or body back to Nikon for repair? If so, what's the best way of doing so, both warranty and non-warranty repair? Yes, I have. I had a refurbished D2X repaired by Nikon.
Make sure that you have some sort of
an 18-200 DX zoom.
I'm gonna do.
And I got the focus calibrated on my D800. For the number of cameras and lenses that have come through here, actually, I've had a pretty good run with Nikon equipment. I have found that the best thing to do is to go to their website, register, and then follow the steps through their customer service process. I've actually been really impressed each time with how quickly they've gotten me an estimate that I need to approve before they do anything, and then they've done the job and sent the item back. Also, in warranty situations, they've been known to repair and replace items that weren't even mentioned in the repair order. Like the rubber grip on my D2X wasn't in bad shape when I sent it to them, but it wasn't new, and they replaced it for free. I mean, I'm not Nikon and I make no guarantees about any additional work like that, but I've heard similar stories from many other happy customers. El Fotografo says, ever thought about bringing your own photo merchandise with your own designs or pictures? Merch. I have thought about it, and I do have these printed magazines for my prized Grand Canyon patrons on Patreon. You can find more info on that at patreon.com/SnapChick. But in terms of merch, like coffee mugs, cat sweaters, and other knickknacks, it's not something that I've chosen to find time for. I know there's a ton of ways that I could do merchandise without having to become a warehouse or a factory or a post office. But even if I had the whole operation outsourced, it would still take time. And I like talking to you guys and going to amazing places and creating videos and content. I just like that all way too much to take time away from it. And plus, I'm not sure, ignore the experts and shoot whatever the hell you want would fit on a t-shirt. Javier wants to know, why would one buy a Hasselblad H2 with a digiback? It's so expensive. What can justify the investment? Well, Javier, I don't have one. So I can't tell you what's absolutely wonderful about it, but I know they're legendary in the industry. It's still not something I use. Maybe some of my viewers who do have this want to chime in on the comments, below. If you do shoot Hasselblad, why do you do it? Tim says, hi Leigh. Hi Tim. First of all, I want to say thank you for producing all the videos. You're welcome. I have enjoyed them very much. My question is, what is meant by the art lens designation and how does that differ from a regular lens? Well, art is Sigma's designation for their more serious lenses. I reviewed their 50mm art lens and it did a great job, but it was a bit large and a bit heavy for my liking. I'll put a link to my review up above, but really at the end of the day, art is just a marketing term. It's a good one, but it's just a word. You can make art with a dirt cheap lens or a $100,000 lens or anywhere in between. Jim. Photo editing. Your thoughts on Affinity Photo versus Photoshop. I am using Elements 14 at the moment and thinking of upgrading. Thank you. Questions like that can cause a lot of debate. Mine is better. No, mine is better. Yours is stupid. You're stupid. There are diehard Photoshop users out there that would never dream of using anything else. No doubt, Photoshop is the king of the hill for image editing, but as you mentioned, there are other options that are great for different uses. I use Photoshop for certain things, but I use other programs as well, and I have used many programs. That being said, it's definitely a personal choice. If something works for you, go with it. Or if you're not sure about plunking down the scratch for new software, give it a try. There are often free trials. And really, even some of the free open source options out there have come a long way. And some relatively inexpensive apps for your tablet now have amazing flexibility with extremely fast workflows. If you're thinking about upgrading, I suggest listing out some of the areas of Elements 14 that you feel are holding you back. Those things should help you figure out what software would be good for you when you're shopping. Or you might realize that you don't really need anything else and you were just kind of feeling antsy. And maybe you just need to take some time to take some pictures. Chris says, I am a Sony SLT user. I am into landscapes. I'm using the Sigma 8 to 16mm. What other lens would you use for landscapes? Thank you, from Bonnie, Scotland. Well, let me tell you a little secret about my landscape shooting. You might find me out shooting landscapes with an ultra wide, but you'd be equally likely to find me out with a telephoto lens. I was at it again shooting a bit of telephoto on my last adventure, and you can see more about that in the link above. So really, I mean, it's all about personal preference, but I do like to shake things up a little bit. For example, like taking a telephoto lens onto my trip when I'm doing landscapes. Bruce says, I see you are represented by an orange Barbie in a bikini, but why is Raymond also a female Barbie? Bruce is talking about the photo that I posted when I asked for these questions. But Bruce, that's ridiculous. I am no Barbie doll. SnapChick, where are we going on the next adventure? I don't know. Maybe we should just go to the Grand Canyon. Okay. Tom just sent two little winky faces at me. It's not a question, but here's my response anyway, both to Tom and to you all for asking questions, for putting up with my shenanigans, and for sticking around to the end of this video. Love you guys.